Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
I'm all nervous now.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Saturday.
Are you?
Yeah.
Why are you so excited for Saturday?
Well, okay, I'm going to tell you. All right, a few things. First of all, because we're doing a film board.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I know. Woohoo, right? And it's going to be Insurgent.
Woohoo!
Part 2. And I'm calling the trilogy, actually, the canonical trilogy is the Next Reel's film board discussion of the Divergent trilogy. Divergent is merely source material, which we're adapting to have a podcast about.
Okay.
Do you feel me? Are you hearing that? And here's why I'm so excited. I went back and listened to that episode to prepare, because why would I go back and actually watch Divergent to get ready for... and so I went back to prepare, and I realized that you and Steve and Tom, and I'm going to say even Mike Evans, were all bullies to me, although Mike Evans the least of which. And I'm so excited because we have a new voice that's going to be joining us on the show on Saturday, and he called me this voice, and he said, "Hey, I just listened to the show, and I wanted you to know you're not alone. I also agree with you on this particular point."
Wow.
Yeah, when you guys were particularly bullyish. So I feel like I'm like pre-vindicated. I'm going to have support.
Is it pre-vindication or post-vindication?
Both. It's both, because it's post for Divergent, but I have a feeling that I will be re-vindicated. Wait, now I've lost the thread. I've totally lost.
You're going to be post-vindicated.
Post-vindicated. That's right. That's right. Neo-vindication is what we call that. So I'm very, very excited. But even my daughter, she sees the trailer. She's like, "What is that movie about?" And she's read all the books. She's like, "That's not the book I read."
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
No, I will say, I mean, I enjoyed the first one, as I recall, but my memory of it has dwindled as time has worn on.
To vapor.
And, yeah, I asked my wife, I'm like, what was the first movie about? I don't even remember it.
Don't you remember the Dauntless? They jumped off the trains.
Well, I remember like that, but I couldn't remember what the point was.
That is the bigger question.
What happened at the end of it? And I really couldn't remember for the life of me what happened. And so she kind of filled me in a little bit. And
remember they threw a knife at the computer and all the data got erased?
I didn't remember that. I remember she and Kate Winslet had a fight.
She did.
But then I didn't remember past that. And I guess then they hopped on the train and they went outside the big city, right? To go live with the
as far as we know, because that's where it ended, right?
They went to live with the country mice, the city mice.
City mice with the country mice. That's what happened. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, no, you nailed it.
I'm so looking forward to this.
And that's right where it ended, right? As far as I remember. More?
I don't remember. I really don't. And, I don't think it's going to matter too much. I have a feeling that honestly, I'm prejudging.
Wait, what was the
along with your pre-vindication post? I feel like I may be more on your side on this one because I feel less interested in the story now.
Yes, truly. I feel like we're seeing this because we lost a bet. Here's the thing. What was the movie where they were working in a field that was in a cone or a cavern of some sort, and they could close up the top of the cavern when bad guys came? Does that ring any bells to you? That wasn't in Divergent, was it?
That doesn't sound like Divergent.
I'm having
because what happened was anyone who was without one of the factions, they were factionless, and then they kicked them out of the city.
Right.
But I don't think that has anything to do with people living in cones.
No, it was like this civilization had created this, and I feel like this is a different movie that just really screams Divergent, Insurgent, Astringent. And so anyway, I can't wait to talk about it just because I really enjoy these conversations.
Excellent.
Yeah. Did you have any good stories this week?
No, I didn't have any good stories this week.
Huh.
It's been a busy. I actually plowed through a number of movies trying to catch up on some old stuff. I had one of those nights where I just couldn't sleep, and so I just kept watching movie after movie.
Yeah,
it was nice.
Anything hot?
I finally saw The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and now I finally know who that man is.
Oh.
I feel some reward in that.
Good for you.
I know.
No, that's really positive.
And then I watched the French film Les Samouraïs.
Oh.
Which was actually quite good. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It was Jean-Pierre Melville's, one of his kind of a French New Wave, noirish sort of thing that he had going on. It was kind of fun.
I haven't seen it.
And then I started watching the Star Wars series with my kids.
Oh, what order?
4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6. That's the order we're doing it.
Okay. I feel like that's the Nerd 2.0, Star Wars 2.0 Nerd 451236, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, and what is your experience with that so far? How far in are you?
Well, they're watching one tonight, and I don't feel so bad that I'm not with them.
Isn't that like a parenting movie fail? When you start a series with your kids and say, okay, this one's a piece of crap, so I'm going to let you watch this alone.
I think that's the best way to do it. Perhaps the safest way.
Technically, you could do 45236 and pretend one just doesn't even exist.
Yes, technically you could, but you know what? They're kids. They're going to enjoy all that goofiness in episode 1. Yeah. I'm not too worried. It'll be easier showing them that one than trying to figure out how I'm going to get through episode 3 without skipping scenes, because I have a feeling I'm going to have to skip a few scenes in that one.
Really? Oh, like the
massacre of all the children.
Master Annie, I'm a wee child.
Why are you waving your light sword at me?
I trust you to take me to a nursery because I trust you as an adult and a Jedi. Oh, bad touch. Too far? Is
that what it equates to?
Is that too far? Is that too far? I haven't been sleeping enough. And that may come out. That may come out in the show. I don't have any other good stories. It's been a crazy week. I have snuck in some old episodes of TV shows, but I have not seen any other movies, with the exception of the movie we watched for tonight's show. Mm-hmm. So I'm really I'm not pulling my weight.
Well.
So if you're ready, I think we should tell the people where we're from.
Where are we from?
This is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Hey!
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, the first in our 2015 Film Noir series with the 1944 Billy Wilder classic, Double Indemnity. But before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you're ready to hit the bricks to roll around with the scum in the gutter, head over to Instagram.com/thenextreel and play The Next Reel's Instagram, hashtag Stephen lives in Scotland, not England, hashtag Pony Prize, hashtag Pete should totally know better than that, hashtag Guess the Movie Challenge. What do you think? Was that a good enough make good?
Was that your reparations?
Yeah.
I think they were made.
I felt so bad. Andy, how'd we do against the pack of pirates this week?
This was a pretty good week. It was Tamara Jenkins' fantastic film, The Savages, from 2007, that it took a number of images. I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, was it 6 images? I believe it was 6 images. So almost a full week went by before Alexander C. Curran figured it out.
Well, I'm really glad you brought up that name.
Yes. Can you tell me why?
I've been thinking about old Alexander C. Curran. Man, he had a good week with our show this week, did he?
I would say this has been a good week for him.
Man, all right. So first he goes and he wins the Instagram. Well, actually, I should say first, he crushed it within, I'm going to say, 12 hours of the last week's show hitting the internets. He crushed it, winning our Mystery 2015 Guess the Series mystery series Connections by pulling together what the 4 movies that we talked about, and we didn't tell you why we talked about them, but the 4 movies that we talked about in reverse order. They were La Vie en Rose, L.A. Confidential, I forgot the first 2. Oh, yeah, Million Dollar Baby.
Syriana.
And Syriana. Those 4 movies all had some mysterious secret connection, and he came out of the gates fast and nailed it in his second tweet to us on that subject. And so what was that connection, Andy?
All of the films won an Oscar for one of the actors in it, and that actor that won the Oscar in that particular film also had been in one of the Batman films.
That's right.
George Clooney from Syriana, Morgan Freeman from Million Dollar Baby, Kim Basinger from L.A. Confidential, and, of course, Marion Cotillard from La Vie en Rose.
So I'm changing on our website. I'm changing the the series name from mystery series to cruel ironic joke. Anyway, congratulations to Alexander C. Curran. Your prize is in the wind, my friend. It's on the way. There you go.
Very exciting.
And then he goes and he wins the Instagram, the Guess the Movie Stephen in Scotland thing.
Yeah, I know. So once again, he's entered to win the 2015 Pony Prize.
Pretty soon we're going to have to give him a job.
I think so.
That's all I got, Andy. I think it's time for us to do the trailers.
Mine may not be as much fun as yours, so we'll just get it over with. No, I actually think it looks like a very good dramatic comedy sort of film. It actually is billed as a comedy, but it looks like it has kind of that drama comedy element. It's called Ride, and it's written and directed and starring Helen Hunt, which I think is quite interesting that she's jumping up there and taking the mantle to kind of head up her own film here. I think this is she's actually directed a few TV shows. She had directed some of Mad About You back then, Californication and Revenge, as well as a film from 2007 called Then She Found Me, which I'm you familiar with that at all?
No, I never even heard of it.
No, it's a comedy, drama, romance. I completely missed that one. Anyway, this film that she is doing, Ride, is about a mother who looks to be a little bit kind of a control freak, very much what you'd call kind of a helicopter parent, even though her son is now, looks like off in college, and she kind of tracks him down, goes across country to see what he's up to, finds out he dropped out of school to basically be a hippie surfer, and she kind of freaks out about that, and then she kind of decides to make a change in her own life and kind of follow suit and kind of become a surfer of her own, or at least learn how to do it so that she can, kind of rekindle her relationship with her son, and that had been kind of, a little bit stressed from all of her helicoptering that she was doing.
I think you should get an instructor.
I live in the most challenging city in the country. I can navigate a few small waves in sunny Santa Monica.
That goes on your leg.
Why are you still in your least favorite city in the world?
I'm working on something.
On what?
Something.
It looks good. I like seeing Helen Hunt doing this. Luke Wilson pops in as her potential love interest. Brendan Thwaites plays her son. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything that's going to blow my mind or anything, but it kind of caught my attention. It piqued my curiosity. What about you?
I think every mother should probably see this film. What do you think?
Yes, probably.
I loved it at its working title, Adjusting to the Oedipus Complex.
Oh, I missed that. That's fantastic.
Oh, it's pretty. I don't know. I thought it looked really. I thought it looked cute. I think it's probably it's funny to see this movie now. It's like it really is like watching therapy on screen a little bit. And I'm not saying that like because I would never say that about my relationship with my mother, but I am saying that about now that I have kids, I feel like I understand where those feelings could go, like being the controlling parent of growing adult children, and my kids are still very young, but I can totally see how that is possible, and I think it's an interesting kind of exploration of Helen Hunt to go and put this on screen, and I think it'll be interesting to see how this hits.
It looks like an interesting character kind of comedy. It could turn into one of those quirky films that ends up working. It could be something that kind of disappears and just nobody hears of again. But I don't know. I'm interested to see it. I
am too. Did you say when it comes out?
It doesn't actually have a release date yet. The trailer's just getting out there. It played at the American Film Market last fall. And it looks like it's they're kind of trying to find its release date sometime, I'm guessing, later this year.
My trailer, Andy, what's happening to me, really? I feel like we've stooped so low. Like we've done trailers. We've done trailers about the big reboots. We've done the big budget trailers, the adaptations. We've even done Van Damme and Kidney Thievery trailer. The things we do in this segment might make people think we have little critical taste in movies at all. And tonight, I feel like I'm going to add another nail to that coffin by bringing to you a trailer released this week starring none other than Adam Sandler and Kevin James. Let us all have a moment of silence.
Some alien life force has sent real-life video games to attack us.
Pac-Man's a bad guy?
Donkey Kong.
It's just a barrel! How bad can it hurt?
The film, of course, is Pixels from director Chris Columbus and writers Timothy Dowling and Tim Herlihy. And it tells a story of an alien menace that takes the form of giant 1980s video game characters. Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Frogger, Donkey Kong, all Centipede. They all make their menacing city-leveling appearance alongside, of course, Adam Sandler and Kevin James and Josh Gad and Peter Dinklage and Michelle Monaghan and Brian Cox and Sean Bean as General Kel Surprise.
I love that Kevin James actually is playing the president.
Yes, I know, right?
With Jane Krakowski as his wife. That says everything you need to know, really.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. I mean, Chris Columbus he's got some wins and, some losses in my book, but I got to admit, I am looking past a lot of my own inner apprehension on this one because, frankly, they are rebooting my childhood brain here, bringing to life not only 4 hours of every Saturday morning at the arcade next to the porn store with my friend from the ages of 8 to 12, but of my nightmares. This looks really fun for my inner child, and I'm gonna suck it up. Pixels is due to hit theaters July 24th, 2015. So what did you think? Is this the Sandler film you're gonna see in the theater?
I don't think so. I kind of want to, but at the same time, because I mean, honestly, I would see it just because Peter Dinklage, like his looks straight out of King of Kong.
Yeah. Yep.
He totally has that look, which I think is fantastic. Adam Sandler, I have such a hard time with Adam Sandler, and and Chris Columbus. I really have a really hard time with Chris Columbus, and that's what makes me most hesitant about the film. I think almost even more than Adam Sandler is the fact that Chris Columbus is helming it. I just it makes me nervous that it's just going to be something that when it rolls around is going to get 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that I necessarily judge by that, but when everybody's just telling me how much garbage it is, it's a sure sign that I should just skip it. I will say I really, really enjoyed the that short film that I can't remember who made it. Was it Patrick Jean? Was that
the original? That was 2010, I think. Pixels.
Right. I really enjoyed watching that. I thought that was so fascinating, and it excites me that they actually, decided to, hey, let's take this interesting short of these giant video game things floating around in the city and actually make a film out of it. I'm curious to see what they do with it. I'm curious to see if it's something that works. I'm sure it's something that I probably would rent down the road. I just don't know if I'm going to give them money at the theater.
Yeah. Yeah,
am I being a bully?
A little bit, you're being a bully, but I'll tell you, I think you're probably right. I think this is one of those where, we may have had enough of Pixels from the short, and maybe a feature is just too much Pixels.
Yeah.
So, anyway, there you go. So, July 24th, 2015. That's, I think that's it.
Oh, hey, Pete.
Yeah?
That's one honey of an anklet you're wearing.
I killed Dietrichson. Me, Walter Neff, insurance agent, 35 years old, unmarried, no visible scars. Until a while ago, that is. Yeah, I killed him. I killed him for money and for a woman. It all began last May. I was thinking about that dame upstairs and the way she had looked at me. And I wanted to see her again, close, without that silly staircase between us. How could I have known that murder can sometimes smell like honeysuckle?
I can't stand it anymore. What if they do hang me?
They're not going to hang you, baby.
It's better than going on this way.
They're not going to hang you. Because you're going to do it and I'm going to help you.
Yes, from the moment they met, it was murder. But always behind them, with his devilish hunches and his brilliant brain, was Keyes.
The murder's never perfect. Always comes apart sooner or later. And where two people are concerned, it's usually sooner.
Could they get away from him and his relentless pursuit? And could they get away with murder?
Here we are, Andy, 1944, Double Indemnity, directed by Billy Wilder, written by Billy Wilder and Raymond Chandler. Wow.
Quite a pairing.
Quite a pairing, based on the book of the same name by James M. Cain. Stars Fred MacMurray, Barbara Stanwyck, Babs, and Edward G. Robinson, among others. So that's the trio that brings this film noir classic to life. What'd you think?
Oh, this has just been one of my favorites forever. Forever.
This is film noir. You're gonna. I think we're in agreement. Where there's no. This is it. This is it. Everybody sucks in this movie. There is nobody that doesn't suck at life. Everybody loses in this movie.
Well, Edward G. Robinson, at least, is, he comes out ahead. I mean, not ahead, but, he's the good guy.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. That's fair.
This is, by many people called the first film noir. I can't remember exactly. I know we talked about film noir a few times, like in The Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon, by many people, is kind of considered like the birth of a lot of the noirish elements. But a lot of people specifically say that Double Indemnity is really the first film noir. It's the first one that really has all the tropes. It's got the femme fatale. It's got the witty banter. It's got the fantastic cinematography and that dark, moody lighting. It's got the voiceover. It's got the poor schlub who just can't say no and gets himself into a pickle with this femme fatale. It's really kind of got all of the tropes that became so standard for film noir after this point. And at the time, Billy Wilder, didn't even know he was making a film noir. As far as he knew, he was just making a crime thriller.
Yeah, and it ends up being something that defines the genre.
Exactly.
For me, the simplicity of the film, I think, is really it's quite refreshing. I love that it is a film based on insurance fraud from 1944. Will we never learn?
Right.
I think it's just brilliant. Fred MacMurray as Walter Neff. Fred MacMurray. What do we know? Fred MacMurray was, My Three Sons, right?
Yeah, this was really a big change for Fred because at the time he had been doing a lot of light comedies, and he was known in those circles as somebody who did comedies. And the way that the story goes, Billy Wilder had this was at a time, remember, when the Hays Code was in effect, and this was not a story that people really looked favorably upon. In fact, James M. Cain also had written The Postman Always Rings Twice. When he had written that, the Hays Code pretty much put the kibosh on it. I mean, all the studios were interested in making that as soon as he wrote that, and this was like 6 years earlier or so. And but then it killed the chances of that movie getting made. And so he went to write another book, and he wrote The Double Indemnity as kind of a serialized novel or novella, really. And it really kind of again, it's something that people were interested in, but because of the Hays Code, they were a little hesitant to jump on board with. Billy Wilder and his producer on this I think his producer, Joe Systrom, actually found the book and brought it to Billy's attention, and Billy was right away interested. Then it was the trick of how do you adapt this to actually get past the Hays Code. That was the next big thing. And so, with Chandler's help, they ended up working it in a way. I mean, at the time, it sounded like you really had to go back and forth with the Hays Code. Like the original book, the two lovers end up killing themselves. They end up on a boat going to Mexico, and they both jump overboard and commit suicide. That was out of the question. The Hays Code wouldn't let people commit suicide. You couldn't show the murder on the screen.
We gotta take a step back. I imagine there are people. We've talked about the Hays Code before, but it's been a while. So for those who haven't listened to all the show, what is the Hays Code?
Well, the Hays Code is something that originated in Hollywood because at the time in the when was it like in the 20s?
Yeah, it was like the 20s. Yeah,
late
20s through the late 60s.
40s. Yeah. It really was. They felt that there was some under the motion picture production code, Will Hayes, he felt that there was just a lot of unacceptable material, unacceptable content in films. And if you look at some of the films in the 20s, I mean, they were getting away with a lot more lascivious stuff and just, I mean, some interesting stuff.
Morally objectionable.
Yes. And so they created this code that the films had to essentially live by. And they might have been a little too strict. There's a lot of talk about the way that the code played out. But what it did is it allowed these filmmakers to end up being really creative in the ways that they would use symbolism and stuff to hint at things, like Alfred Hitchcock in the famous shot of the couple in the bed, and then you see the train going through the tunnel, letting us know, okay, they're going at it. That sort of thing. Like, people would find ways, and that's where a lot of this exciting dialogue ended up coming from, because instead of just talking about doing something, they would talk around it, and it ended up creating much more interesting dialogue and much more interesting scenes in a lot of cases. So but anyway, the code ended up getting replaced years later by the actual rating system, and it created something that actually allowed for different ages. And I think granted, the MPAA and their rating system still has a lot of problems, but I think it's better than it was under the Hays Code.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
In any case, they get away with a lot in this film through not terribly subtle dialogue, but they do get away with more in this film. These exchanges between Walter Neff and Phyllis early on are particularly steeped in sexuality, homosexuality, sort of homoerotic tendencies or illusions, and it's really fun to watch them kind of go at each other verbally like this.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And so what I was saying was, so they wrote this script, but then they couldn't get people to act in it because people were like kind of a little put off by the tone of the script. They felt like these types of James M. Cain novels, that whole kind of pulpy novel that was coming out, were just trashy novels that people didn't want to be in those sorts of movies. And so they looked a lot to find the actor. And according to Wilder, he basically asked everybody in town. And as he said, he even went to George Raft, who at the time was like one of the bottom of the barrel actors who oddly had turned down many great roles like Casablanca and this. And he ended up, finally talking to Fred MacMurray and talking him into it. And lucky for us that he did, because you're right. I mean, Fred MacMurray is mostly, well, at least as us as younger people, was known as like, My Three Sons and, Son of Flubber.
Absent-minded professor.
All that sort of stuff. And it's so funny that this is the guy who ended up taking on this role to play Walter Neff. And I think it's his greatest screen role. I think that he's fantastic in this. And he just is just so good playing this poor sap who's just, I shouldn't even call him poor sap. I mean, he pretty much does it to himself, but he's too greedy and wants the woman, wants the money, and gets himself into a place where he's screwed.
He does. It's funny. We talk about My Three Sons and Son of Flubber and those sorts of things, but really, I mean, Double Indemnity, it happened really at the midpoint of his career, and that's something that I lose perspective on. I mean, that's 1944. He had been acting for 15 years by then, more than 15 years by then, and this ends up being a defining role. It's funny to hear you talk about him as a poor sap. I don't see him as a poor sap, which implies to me more of a dullard, somebody who's really just plain stupid. He was greedy, but I never saw him as stupid. I mean, he's the top of his, they characterize him as at the very top of his game as a salesman. He is a smooth talker. He is extremely charismatic. He is likable by, everybody in his office. They like him. He's really at the top of his game. And that he ends up succumbing to the wiles of this woman, this manipulative woman, I think sends, for me, a better message, or at least a more powerful message, knowing just how powerful she is in that relationship and what he has lost of his own composure as he sort of falls to her prey.
Yeah, and when I said poor sap, I mean, I tried taking it back, but not very well, because that was definitely the wrong way to describe him. He's just, he's a somebody who is too greedy and too, I mean, he is good at his game, but there's something in him. I mean, he has taught, when he falls for Phyllis, he actually, he says, after she kind of pitches the whole idea of killing off her husband and everything, and he kind of comes around to it, he says, it's something that I've thought about, is how I could actually get away with this sort of thing. And he really has kind of put together this plan in his head as to how you could actually get away with it. And it's because of her that he does. But at the same time, it's like there is something, I think, already inside him that was willing to try it if the right thing came along. So I think that he already had some danger in him, but because of this femme fatale who kind of comes into the picture and really twists him to do it, that he actually does do it.
Barbara Stanwyck is the femme fatale. She is elegant.
Elegant in her evilness.
She really is. Now, this is her role in the story. She is the second wife of of her husband, who is Mr. Dietrichson. Do we ever know his first name? I don't think so. Played by Tom Powers. And he is this whole thing starts because he needs his auto insurance. He's an oil tycoon. He needs his auto insurance renewed. And it turns out that he has lost a lot of money. And so that gets Phyllis's attention, or at least it causes Phyllis to approach Walter very subtly with this plan. What could they do to take out this insurance policy? And one that would ideally activate the double indemnity clause of their policy, so that this accident that is so rare, it would never possibly happen. An accident on a train, well, that would pay out double the policy total. So that's their plan, is to kill the husband on a train and make double indemnity on that policy. And she is, for me, she's the real highlight of this film. I love watching her manipulate all of these pieces and the way she swings back and forth between her husband, between Walter Neff on screen, and between, in the end, between Keyes, Edward G. Robinson's insurance investigator. I find her just a yo-yo performance in the very best way.
There's a couple scenes that just always stand out. I mean, I agree with you that she plays everybody so well, but my favorite moments are, one, when the murder happens and she actually has Walter kill her husband, and the camera holds on her face while Walter does it. And it's this look of almost erotic enjoyment. It's almost this sexual thrill that she's getting from it as her husband is basically killed in the seat next to her, and you just are staring into her face. That is, I think, one of the most terrifying moments of watching her, because there's this real danger.
There is. And, on second viewing, that's one of those moments that means so much more on second viewing of this film, right? Because, first of all, it's captured beautifully. The sound is great as you hear her husband, being killed in the seat next to her, but you can't see him. But more importantly, once the film plays out and you realize that, she is, responsible for more than just his death, then seeing this film again and watching that scene and watching, as you say, that sort of erotic enjoyment that she gets out of her husband being killed, that it makes it that much more powerful. It's really haunting.
And then the other thing the other scene that really stands out for me is at the end, after she's shot Walter, and then he comes up to her and they hug, and she has that, confession about how she's just rotten to the core, but she knew that she loved him because all of a sudden she couldn't shoot him and everything. And just that whole turn that she has there, it just is the continuation of that level of danger within her that you just don't know what you can ever trust with anything that comes out of her mouth. Because is she telling him the truth? Does she really love him? Or is she purely evil and just trying to manipulate him again so that he won't kill her? And the way that she plays that, I think, is so frightening.
It really is. And that last line, I knew I'd never loved you until just a minute ago when I couldn't fire that second shot. Oh,
right.
Oh, she's just diabolical. And then, goodbye, baby. And he shoots her twice, which, he is able to commit to the second shot.
Yes.
Killing her. Fantastic. Edward G. Robinson's character, I was going to talk about Nino Zacchetti. He is the daughter's, Lola Dietrichson's, boyfriend. And it turns out that he was having an affair with Phyllis Dietrichson, with the mother, which gets, they don't invest a whole lot of time on that particular tryst. He seems like more of a plot tool.
It's an interesting twist, though. I was thinking about that this time because, he's pretty rotten himself.
He's rude.
He's dating sweet little Lola, who, she is in the film the complete opposite of Phyllis, and I think it might be interesting to talk about the portrayal of women at some point in our conversation here. But he's cheating on her with her stepmother Phyllis, which is just atrocious in and of itself. But then, with Phyllis, apparently he is actually working to kind of come up with this, or, she's using him to kind of knock Walter off. That's the intended plan, as at least we're led to believe. And I find it so interesting then that Walter, as kind of despicable as he is, then essentially stops Nino and essentially helps him escape from Phyllis's clutches, so to speak, so that he can actually return to Lola. And I find it such a strange moment because Nino is never portrayed as somebody that we like. The first time we meet him, he's just rude.
And yet he's the guy who gets the girl and gets away.
Exactly. He's the guy who gets the girl. He's the guy who our protagonist helps. And it's just... I don't know. I found it like such an interesting decision that Wilder and Chandler chose to include in the story. I don't know how much of that Zacchetti subplot is included in the original novel, but it's interesting how they chose to write that in the screenplay.
Did they need him in the screenplay? Did they need him as a plot tool, in your opinion?
Well, I think that they needed him because I think it's important to portray Phyllis's, her betrayal of Walter at that point, how she is already with another guy and basically plotting to knock Walter off. I think that aspect of it is pretty important.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good point. I was thinking about it just in terms of getting away with killing Mr. Dietrichson. It really is a very simple little 3-person plot that they could have gotten away with this whole thing. I'm saying, Chandler and Wilder could have gotten away with this whole thing without that secondary betrayal. But I think it is made better. It has made a stronger betrayal knowing that she has already, moved on to this next assassination.
Well, and I think in a strange way, it's an interesting portrayal of Walter making a good decision at this point, that as if they're trying to give us, and for all I know, this was a Hays Code directive. Who really knows? But it feels like it's something where, well, we need to show the protagonist. He's been such a bad guy. He's just killed this woman in cold blood. We need to show him do something good, at least trying to do something, for the betterment of this situation. And that it comes across as, let's make our protagonist, at least let's help our audience identify a little bit with the protagonist at this point.
Yeah, I can see that. Particularly after all of the strange orchestrations. There are some wonderfully tense scenes with Edward G. Robinson's character, Barton Keyes, the insurance investigator. And he's not the character you expect from Edward G. Robinson. He's the honest bloke.
Yeah, this was quite a change for him. In fact, speaking of all the different challenges Wilder had getting these 3 performers to come on board, Robinson didn't want to do it because he was, he was playing second fiddle, so to speak. I mean, he was a supporting character. He had been a lead since Little Caesar back in 1930, and he did not feel like he was, wanted to all of a sudden be relegated to just being a supporting character now. But I guess, the script was good, the material was good, and Wilder was convincing, and he did. And, I think for both him and MacMurray, it was playing opposite type, and I think they both did a great job.
I think they did too. He was fun. I kept wanting him to turn somehow. I kept expecting him to go dark and go all mafia or something, and he never quite got there. All the way to the very, very final sequence as they are as he's kneeling down with Walter Neff and lighting him a match.
This is really the love story of the film.
It really
which I think
is.
Yeah, it does have, like you said earlier, kind of that homosexual undertone that they kind of threw in here. It's a very interesting relationship that Neff and Keyes has. I love how Neff always, when Robinson is trying to light his cigarette, MacMurray just does that. I don't know how you do it with those matches where you can just flick the top of it and lights it. It's just like one of those cool things that guys back in the 40s would do with their matches. That was just so cool. Yeah. And so Neff would light the match for Robinson with his finger and light Keyes's cigarette for him, and then he would say, "I love you too." It's an interesting relationship, and I think that there is a stronger relationship between these two guys. In fact, I think that there's the scene that I think exemplifies that so well is when Keyes comes over to Neff's apartment the night when Neff is expecting Phyllis to come in, and they have that great exchange, and then as Keyes is leaving, Phyllis is actually hiding behind the door, at the outside of the apartment door. And there's that great shot where you have Phyllis behind the door, you've got Walter holding the door open, and then down the hall you've got Keyes. And just the spatial relationship just helps you see that Neff and Keyes are really much closer to each other than Neff and Phyllis are. There's a bigger separation between him and her than there is between him and Keyes.
It is. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's one of my favorite scenes, and I think it really cements that relationship for me. That the way that unravels, the fraud unravels for him. I think we see him, at least for the first 3/4 of the film, really not investing in anything that would implicate Neff. I mean, you really feel like he's doing his due diligence. He's a bloodhound. He's the bulldog. But he would never see this from his colleague. He offers him a job. He wants him to come into this world with him, like everything he can do to kind of welcome him into the fold. That becomes almost the tertiary betrayal when Keyes realizes that his faith, the faith that he had in his protege, so to speak, was ill-founded.
It really is. It is heartbreaking. It's very sad to see that final deterioration of that relationship at the end there, as Neff realizes Keyes is listening to him confess and comes clean and all of that, and you can just see kind of the bitter disappointment and sadness in Keyes's face as he goes through that whole thing and watches his friend die. I mean, it really is quite heartbreaking, that whole end bit. Absolutely touching. Those three really are the key. I mean, everyone else, I think, does their parts well, but they, it's dominated by Fred, Barbara, and Edward. Those three people really are the driving force of this film. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the screenplay, Billy Wilder and Raymond Chandler. What do you love about how this screenplay was executed? Well, I haven't read the original material. I haven't checked it out, but from my understanding of reading it, is there still is Cain, elements of Cain's dialogue and plotting and stuff in there, but there's a lot of reworking because I guess Chandler caught on quite quickly that Cain's dialogue in his book did not work well when somebody actually spoke it, and so they actually really had to retool the script quite a bit. And like I said, they changed the ending due to the Hays Code. They found a different way to structure the story. And I mean, I think this is one of the strongest plotted stories. I think it moves incredibly quickly. I think it's taut. I think the elements are all in place. I think that the structure that they use it moves very quickly from sequence to sequence and from act to act as you're going from the investigation into the trying to sell the insurance to the decision to move forward with it, to the murder, to the subplots with Lola and Nino and Keyes' investigation, and Walter's growing fear that he's going to get caught, to the resolution of the film. I think it just moves so well. Chandler, this was, I think, one of his earliest things that he actually did, and I think that he brought a lot to it. I guess that he and Wilder were butting heads constantly on the process of getting this thing written, but I think that maybe something came of that, because I think that it's just a really solid, well-paced, well-structured story all the way through.
You know what I like so much about it in these, and generally films in this in the genre, these films offer characters that give you a very limited window into their lives. Right? I mean, we get just hints of who Fred MacMurray's character, Walter Neff, is outside of what we experience with him in this film. We get just hints of Barbara Stanwyck, as our femme fatale. We get just this small window based on their very limited activities to judge them as characters on screen. And one of the things I like so much about the way this script is architected is that even given that limited window, it still feels like a fully fleshed out character. I'm not left wanting more from how these characters are delivered, and I think that's just a function of really piecing out what makes the most sense as we puzzle these characters together. It's leveraging their relationship in such a way that we're not focused so much on what we're missing in terms of who they are, and that may be a characteristic of these sort of thriller films that I haven't kind of fleshed out in my head yet. But I really came away thinking, wow, I really enjoyed my experience with these characters. I didn't feel like any one of them, even Edward G. Robinson, I didn't walk away from any of these characters thinking, wow, I want more from them. I think it was just a really sound mix.
I think that comes through in the dialogue and in the characters' actions. I think that, and also I think the way that they wrote the script to include the locations, and I know this may sound weird as far as the characters go, but I really felt like these people lived in the environment. And I don't know if this fully makes sense yet, as I'm still fleshing the thought out, but I really got a sense that these people knew where they were. They had an actual relationship with the geography in which they were in all the time. When he's talking to Lola about which corner to drop her off, like they were so specific about things like that. They were specific, like when he's first driving up to the address, like to give us a lot of details about that. And I know it's like not necessarily tied in directly to the characters themselves, but there's something about that just, for me, it helped me feel like they were more lived in. Does that make sense?
Well, what do you mean? Just because of the location? Like I'm thinking specifically as he walks up to the house, and the voiceover is talking about how it's a $30,000 place, and giving us that level of experience.
Well, and like which corners, like he tells you kind of all, not really the directions as to how he got to the house, but he's like, well, it was up off of whatchamacallit Boulevard. Yeah. He gives you so many specifics that I just felt like, even though I didn't have as much details about who these characters were, I really felt like they were real characters because they just had a sense of their place.
And I think that fits into these little windows that we get of each of these characters. That's just one of these little pieces that we get. And I think it leads into such a wonderful, in particular, that sequence, it leads into such a wonderful exchange between Neff and Phyllis. And the just sort of double entendre that Rich sequence as they flesh out their relationship together.
Billy Wilder's direction, then.
I think he's a smart director. I think he knows how to tell a story. He directed a scene that took place later in the film when we actually see Neff on death row and we have Keyes kind of witnessing his execution. He's a smart enough director to realize as he puts the film together that he didn't really need that. He just needed that final scene between the two of them together, and that got the point across. I think that he understands the storytelling elements, and at least at this point in his career, I think he was very smart with allowing for edge in his stories and letting it play and using characters who really feel real.
Boy, he did. I feel like I haven't seen that much of his stuff. Is that weird?
I have a huge gap in his career. I think it all, because he's credited with 27 films from 34 to 81. And I think that I've seen
Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity, 7-Year Itch, Some Like It Hot,
Last Weekend, Ace in the Hole, 7-Year Itch, Witness for the Prosecution, Avanti. So
yeah,
I mean,
you've seen more than I have for sure.
I've seen a number of them, but I still have a huge gap in his career. And he's one of those directors who I know that his career really kind of falls apart toward the latter half into the 60s and 70s. He's one of those directors I really want to go through just his whole body of work and check them all out, because I feel like there's a lot of great stuff in there. Well,
from 34 to 81, my goodness, Billy Wilder directing Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau in Buddy Buddy. That is a long career, but what's so nice about it is he only has 27 credits, primary directorial credits in that period. We can clear that out.
There you go.
Yeah. I deeply enjoyed just watching the way this film works. But again, maybe it's because we just spent so much time talking about LA Confidential and $1 Million Baby, both films that have dealt with so beautifully with light. $1 Million Baby in particular, which I think this is a film that allows you to kind of see what those films are playing homage to. I mean, just the way they use light and shadow and patterns and silhouettes that I think it just brings such yet another layer of character to the screen, and allows us to see the characters that we are learning to relate to in an interesting new way. The light tells you whether or not you should love this character or whether or not you should fear this character, and I think this is he plays with that really, really well.
Yeah, John Seitz did the cinematography for this. He is one of those cinematographers who had been around since the early days. I mean, since 1916, he was filming shorts all the way through 1960. Got a lot of credits to his name, and worked on a number of projects with Wilder. This was a film where, like we said, film noir hadn't even been coined yet. People weren't going, "Oh, let's make this a film noir style film." This was just a film where Wilder felt that because of the crime nature of the story, he wanted to kind of have a sense of some German expressionism in it. And, he's from Europe and he's kind of from that background. And so he brought that to the table. And that's something that Seitz really brought into the forefront in making of this, and brought the dusty atmosphere, the fantastic Venetian blinds that give you kind of this prison bar look all the time. And these, these dark, gloomy interiors that just almost looked rotting, that contrasted with the bright exteriors, and that became a staple of noir films. Not because they said let's make noir look this way. It's just because they were trying to kind of create this German expressionist sort of look for this particular film. Set wise, I again think they worked well with the cinematography to create those dark, just kind of interiors that just felt very very moody, and just that lent a lot to the cinematography.
The one that stands out for me is the back of the train. It's the back of the carriage of the train when Neff walks out on the train, and he's about to get off, right? He's about to sort of throw himself off the train, but there is somebody sitting there, and the way the light plays off of their faces to hide Neff, whose back is constantly to this stranger, and the way the stranger is so open and so well lit as we see him trying to make just friendly overtures to Neff. I think we get a sense of the compression as a result of the size and scope and use of light on the back of this train set. And I loved that. I thought that was just such a really beautifully intense sequence as he's trying to get rid of this friendly guy. Why does this guy love so much? I thought it was great.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree.
Who else would you like to talk about?
Miklos Rozsa.
Oh, music. The score.
I think this is just one of the all-time great noir scores. It's so just haunting. It's so driving. It's got this kind of this insistent driving feel to it that just feels like, it works well with the opening of watching the silhouette of the person walking on crutches coming slowly toward you. It won't let up. And like the pace of this doesn't let up. He's a composer who had, he had just started earlier in the late 30s, and I believe this was really kind of his first breakout, I think, or at least his first big one that really kind of got him on the map as doing something that a lot of people would want to then seek him out to have him do. He ended up working more with Billy Wilder and Hitchcock and a lot of people after this, and just a fantastic score.
It is deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress. Turns out Congress loves Double Indemnity. It is in the National Film Registry. How'd it do in terms of awards?
This was a film that surprised people when it came out. It ended up getting 7 Oscar nominations for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress for Barbara Stanwyck, Best Screenplay Writing, Best Cinematography, Best Score, and Best Sound Recording. It lost every category. This was a time when studios were behind, or when studios were pushing their movies. They pushed like everybody, all their employees and everybody, to all vote the same way. And they would kind of do this block vote. And Paramount, which also produced Going My Way, in addition to Double Indemnity, they got behind Going My Way, which is kind of this, I don't know, it's like a buddy film with Bing Crosby and Barry Fitzgerald, where there are 2 singing priests, I think. And it's one of those films, I still have yet to see it, but I haven't heard anything that really screams, hey, come watch this one. It's the big notable film from 1944. It just happened to win because Paramount got behind it and it pushed it. And it's just the film that ended up beating out the darker film Double Indemnity. But really, I think if you look at Time as the one that really defined the better picture of the year, I think the Double Indemnity would be the one that would be the better film. It's
another one on the list of, what do you remember of the films that won when Double Indemnity didn't?
Yes.
And I think we had, it's funny, we just had a year like that, I think, in some respects. So, it's too bad. It's too bad. I think this one certainly holds up really, really well.
This is a film that I think is just always going to hold up. I mean, I think all the people involved did everything right when they made this film. And that doesn't, that's a rare thing to happen in film. It's hard to you have so many people, so many moving parts, to get everything to just hit absolutely perfectly, I think is just such a rarity. And this film, I think they did. And I think everybody needs to see this film, because even if you're not into film noir, I think this one is the one to look at, because it's such a standout film. Even outside of noir.
It really is. It was funny. My wife had never seen it. We were watching it the other night in bed, and I would look over, and she would be like huddling beneath the sheets, like hiding her face. I said, "This isn't like gory. This, what are you? There's nothing like scary." And this happened to be the sequence when the 3 of them were in the hallway, and Barbara Stanwyck is behind the door, and it was just so intense that it exuded this incredible reaction from her. I thought that was really fascinating. It is a really intensely structured film. I think it's just wonderful.
Interestingly, when Cain wrote the book for this, and actually Postman Always Rings Twice, he had actually based it off of an actual execution that he witnessed as a reporter of a woman named Ruth Snyder, who actually was found guilty of murdering her husband with like basically the same setup where she convinced somebody to help her. And I didn't know this, but it's really kind of creepy. She is actually, there was a photographer at the execution. They killed her by electric chair. And a photographer had a hidden camera on his ankle or something, and he actually took a picture of her while she was getting executed that ran in the front page of the New York Daily News.
Ooh.
It's kind of creepy. It's actually on Ruth Snyder's Wikipedia page. I can put that on the in the show notes. But it's like, yeah, there is the photo of her getting executed.
Wow, that's awful.
I know, so creepy.
Oh man.
So that's the one thing. And then the other fun little tidbit, which is actually a little more enjoyable, I guess one could say.
Please, I need a palate cleanser.
Yeah, the house where the Dietrichsons lived is actually a house up in the Hollywood Hills that you can go drive by. It's up on Quebec Drive, I guess. And just out of curiosity, I went to Zillow since Walter Neff is so kind to tell us that this house cost $30,000 back at the time when when these people bought it. Likely, I wanted to see what this house actually went for these days. And it's a 4-bed, 3-bath, 3,077 square foot home.
4.5 million.
And it's actually a lot less than I thought.
Really?
The Zillow estimate for the house is $1.6 million.
Wow, that's a lot less than I thought.
Yeah, for a house in the Hollywood Hills. I mean, I guess it's not a big mansion, but still.
4-bedroom, 3-bathroom?
Yeah, 4-bed, 3-bath, 3,000 square feet.
It's not a bad house.
No, not too bad.
Hollywood Hills. If you want to live in Hollywood.
That's right.
I don't know if you've seen the latest trailer for San Andreas.
That might put people off.
1.5.
Maybe the trailer came out. Right, it keeps going down. It was $4 million, but because San Andreas is coming out, the price just keeps dropping.
I say we. Oh wait, you were going to talk about numbers.
Yeah, I was going to talk about numbers. So this film, it didn't strike a chord tremendously with audiences, even though they did enjoy it. It wasn't something that was hugely successful at the time, although it did make money back. It cost, from what I found, about $927,000 to make, which adjusted is about $12 million. So, it's a decent kind of a low-budget film. It ended up making... Let me find it. Domestically, about $5 million, which is about $66 million adjusted. So all told, it did pretty well for itself. It made about $504,000 per finished minute.
Not a bad run.
Not bad.
Not bad. Well, let's see how it does on the ranking.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel and you can rank your favorite films with our favorite films, and you can see how they stack up. We'll just see how they stack up between us. Who knows? Maybe another grudge match. I'm ready to go.
Let's do it. Double Indemnity or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's totally Double Indemnity for me. This if it were just me, this is going to get pretty close to the top 5. I don't know.
I feel like you're itching for a fight, but I'm going to say Double Indemnity.
You were hestant. I wasn't sure.
I just, it exhausts me a little bit because of past rankings when I feel like I love, Oh
Brother.
Oh Brother. I do.
Yeah. I hear
you're right. Defines a genre.
All right. Double Indemnity or The Outlaw Josie Wales?
Double Indemnity.
Double Indemnity indeed. Double Indemnity or Fight Club?
Fight Club.
I would do Double Indemnity on this one.
Mm-hmm. How much?
Am I?
Where are you on the teeter-totter? Are you way on the outside of the teeter-totter, or are you kind of on the inside of the teeter? You're the fulcrum.
I would be at a 2.
Oh, I'm a, Fight Club for me. It's way, way up there. I jump
above an 8.
Oh yeah, it's probably a 9 or 10.
All right, so I'll give you Fight Club.
All right.
I feel dirty doing that, but Double Indemnity or The Sting?
Double Indemnity.
Double Indemnity. Double Indemnity or LA Confidential? I would go with the original.
It's going to be Double Indemnity, but I like that pairing came up.
I think that's great. Double Indemnity or Misery?
Double Indemnity.
Yes, indeed. Double Indemnity or The Exorcist?
Double Indemnity.
Indeed. Oh, there you go. Number 23.
Yeah, I hosed you on that one.
You did. You
might have done better playing rock paper scissors on that one. You got to know when to hold them and fold them and walk away. But I feel pretty good about that, actually. That feels like a good place for it. And there are a lot of good movies on our list, dang it. Andy?
I know there are. I would like it to be at least in the top 20, but I'm going to settle for 23.
All right. I feel good about that. Where do we go from here? This is a continuation of our 2015 Film Noir series.
We're going to go to Edward Ulmer's fantastic film Detour.
Detour. You know, I haven't seen this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
This is a film, I feel like I've seen this one possibly more than any other noir film, oddly.
What do I need to be on the lookout for? Set it up for me.
Just, this is another great example of all the tropes of film noir. It really highlights everything perfectly. And the femme fatale in this, she's just fantastic. I absolutely love her. There's some great moments all through this. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I just want you to enjoy it.
All right.
Watch the film, and I'm definitely looking forward to talking about it with you next week.
Me too. I love these first time runs, so I am very much looking forward to it. Don't forget, this weekend we're doing Insurgent, so the show will be up on Sunday. That's what I'm going to commit to Sunday. I can do it by Sunday.
Excellent.
We're going to record on Saturday, be up on Sunday. There you go.
Looking forward to it.
I got to go to bed.
All right. I'm going to go put my anklet back on.
I'm going to go with a 1 star.
Ouch.
It was written in 2000. So 15 years ago. This is straight opinion, no summary here. Just because a film is from 1944 doesn't mean that the acting has to be stiff or the director has to make his actors aspire to be in a soap opera. Please. Citizen Cain and the Maltese Falcon were made 3 years before this film, and yet DI can't produce a truly believable dramatic moment. It's hard to believe that Wilder could direct both this and Some Like It Hot. Excellent characters, hilarious dialogue, and even though men were dressing as women, it was believable. Billy, if you stuck to comedy and Stallone stuck to killing, Hollywood would be a better place. Fred MacMurray reaches with every line. It's so sad when a drip can't even play an insurance salesman. And the chemistry between Stanwyck and him is oil and water. I beg of you, spend your money on something that will entertain you for 2 hours, not this predictable, unbelievable, uninspired wannabe thriller. Yeesh.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I like that they brought Stallone into it.
I know. I like that one. And I like that, it's believable, men dressing as women. Even though men dressed as women, it was believable. I don't even know how to go from there.
He's referencing, Something Like It Hot.
Well, I got that. How does
how does it? I don't know. I'm trying to.
And I love that he's giving Billy Wilder a bit of a prescription for for his career in the year 2000.
That's fantastic.
2 years before he passes. That's sad.
Well, mine is short. It's a little short 3-star from somebody who I just don't think really understands film noir, maybe. Ben Kaufman says, I know it's a classic, but I just couldn't get into the story. Maybe because the movie doesn't really have a hero. The story is about two people stuck in an affair and murdering their way out of it. Not my kind of movie.
Did he see the same Double Indemnity?
I don't know what he saw.
That was not the one I saw.
No, I don't think so. But clearly Ben just has a different way of looking at noir. I still gave it 3 stars, oddly.
Yeah. Huh. Well, there you go. I'll take it. Go. Thanks, Amazon.
Andy, it is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
I love The Next Reel Season 4. Do you know why?
I don't. Why?
Because we got to talk about my favorite movie, Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
That's not even an adaptation.
No, but it was such a great part of our great Terry Gilliam series, and a few others in that series were adaptations, like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, adapted from Raspi's stories, and La Jetée, which inspired 12 Monkeys.
Oh, right. And for our Man with No Name trilogy, we saw how Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars was basically stolen from Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
We added Labor Day to our Jason Reitman series, adapted from Joyce Maynard's novel.
Oof, there's one we'll always regret.
Our big Stephen King series covered adaptations like The Shining, Cujo, Christine, and Stand By Me, great horror and coming-of-age tales.
Another Coen Brothers adaptation, too. We got to talk about how they turned Homer's The Odyssey into Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
For our holiday series, we did The Bishop's Wife and The Poseidon Adventure.
And who could forget seeing Alec Guinness in the adaptation of Kind Hearts and Coronets during our series dedicated to him.
We really need to do more of his films.
Truly.
We had our first film noir series with classics like Double Indemnity, Detour, and Out of the Past.
And our black and white cinematography of James Wong Howe's series with The Thin Man, Sweet Smell of Success, Seconds, and King's Row. So many adaptations.
Oh, you're not kidding. Dive deeper into these originals and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book you buy helps support our show.
Get the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and start reading today.